gentlemen, welcome back to the House of Warfare channel. My name is James, and today is going to be a slightly different video than what you guys are used to regularly on this channel. However, I wanted to introduce Stormworks onto this channel, so I tried it with my future subsurface warfare frigate video build series, which I believe the third and final video hopefully should be coming soon in this sort of format, the time-lapse-esque style, just because it's a lot easier to talk about what I'm seeing, having not recorded the video and speaking at the same time, so it's better for me to just sort of talk to you guys about what's on the screen, having slept on the video, and looking at it with a fresh set of eyes. Now, the build that we are constructing today, this series, I'm hoping to get finished in about 3 or 4 time-lapse videos. The second episode and third episode are already filmed. I'm just working on voiceover now. In fact, I'm going to do the second part after this. So this build is going to be a time-lapse of my Type 21 frigate build. Not a replica in the sense of scale. It's a very, very small version of the Type 21 frigate. However, the Type 21 frigate is one of my favourite frigate designs. Really like the look of it. Very low cost, very budget style, but it definitely looks like it could do some damage. Now, the Type 21 frigate, also known as the Amazon class frigates, I believe they were general purpose frigates. They were built for the British Royal Navy in, I believe, the 1960s and 70s, and served until, I believe, the late 90s. They were built by Yarrow and Vosper Thornycroft, and they were built for the Royal Navy as primary operators, and I believe the Pakistani Navy got some as well. Now, the Type 21 frigates were built to replace the Type 12 Indias, the Leander class frigates, also very small, very low cost frigates, but they were some of the most numerous warships that the Royal Navy had at the time. Obviously, later designs, these were then replaced by the Type 22s, the broadsword class, which were far less numerous and far more expensive to run and maintain. Now, in total, 8 were built, I believe. 2 were lost, I think, during the Falklands War. But 6 were retired. Now, obviously, these are frigates. The Type 21 Amazon class are general purpose frigates. They're about 2,700 tons at standard displacement and about 3,200.5 tons at full load. Now, they did go through a hull strengthening phase, bringing them up to the capability of 3,300 tons full load. Size-wise, obviously this example that is going on in the background doesn't do these justice. These were about 110 meters at the waterline, or about 360 feet, but overall just over 120 meters, I think. They had a beam of about 12 meters, about 41 feet, and a draft of about 5.5 meters. In terms of engines, which we won't be covering in the time lapse, as this is just an external build. A lot of my builds tend to be focused on a really detailed exterior, but I like to keep the interiors blank. That way people who download off the workshop have the capability of not having to delete my stuff that's inside. Instead, they just throw some gear inside and make the ship their own. However, their real-life counterparts used a cargo configuration, performing on 2 shafts and 2 props. They used 2 Tyne cruise turbines, outputting about 8,000 shaft horsepower. They also used the Rolls-Royce Olympus boost turbines, outputting about 50,000 shaft horsepower. They had a top speed of about 32 knots on average, which is about 37 miles an hour, but didn't really go any more than 32 knots, with a cruise speed of about 18 on the Tynes. The range was about 4,000 nautical miles at 17 knots being their most economical speed, which is about 20 miles an hour. They have the capability of going about 4,600 miles at max, so not too far. They had probably a sprint range of about 1,200 nautical miles, going full whack 32 knots. Capacity wise, the Type 21 frigates had the capability of housing 164 junior rates and about 13 in the wardroom. So yeah, pretty small. Not far off what the current Type 23 frigates are outputting. I believe they're on about 180, 178, 180. In terms of radar, then, the Type 21 frigates used the Type 992 Quebec low-level search radar, the Type 978 navigation radar, the Type 912 fire control radars, and they used the Type 184 Mike and the Type 162 Mike sonars. Bow-mounted, I believe, not in a bulbous bow. Now, the armament... I can't remember if in this time lapse, I believe we do put in a 4.5 mod 0. I can't actually remember though. But in terms of armament, the Type 21s used a single 4.5 inch mod 0 main gun, as well as the last few having the capabilities of housing I believe the 20mm just on the bridge wings. They utilised the Royal Navy Seacat missile system on a rail of on a launcher of 4 rails, which we do input, I believe, in this model. Obviously, the obligatory countermeasures. And the later additions, the later ships in the class also utilised the 4 massive Exocet launchers, the MM38s, I believe they were, on the bow, just forward of the bridge. They also utilised torpedoes in later models using the 12.7 inch or 324mm anti-sub torpedoes. In terms of this build then specifically, this is modelled after one of the later variants. This includes the 4.5 inch mod 0 main gun up front, and also the 4 Exocet launchers just forward of the bow as well. This also features, later on down the line, we do some machine guns on the bridge wings, port and starboard bridge wings. But other than that, these are relatively lightly armed. I don't use torpedo launchers on this build just because the build isn't big enough for them. So this first video, time-lapse video, is sort of null and void. because in the second and third episodes I completely annihilate this hull form. We get to the end and I stare at it for quite a while and work out that in actual fact she's quite a chunky girl. The way I'm building this by cutting the ship in half and working on one side, and then later on I copy and paste that one side onto the other to make obviously the full ship, is not an amazing way of doing it if you can't gauge scale, which clearly I can't. So when I merged the two sections together, she looks really, really wide, and I wasn't a fan of it at all. So between recording the first episode and the second episode, I completely redesigned the hull and shave off I think about 2 meters from the sides, and in doing so it gives her that signature slim silhouette that the T21s had. Now, I know I brisked over what was happening with the hull, but leaving out the fact that I'm doing one half and then I'll do the other half at a later date. It's exactly the same as my usual method of building, where I have the long sort of platform that I then delete various blocks to get that really smooth hull shape, and then we do the delete and paste, the copy and paste technique that I demonstrated in my FSSF videos. I am losing my absolute mind at the moment. I don't know what's going on. So the orange bit. I'm working on the superstructure shape now. I'm getting that signature sort of kink there towards the end of towards the beginning of the flight deck, and you can see I'm just using a member of the Stormworks community's Westland Wasp build. Really, really good build. I'll see if I can link it in the description if I'm able to find it. I'm just using that Westland Wasp to sort of gauge the rough size for the flight deck, because my Lynx build, which this ship will utilise, isn't too far off the Wasp in terms of size. So I was just utilising it to make sure the rotors didn't collide with anything when we sail. Now, these red bits here, all I'm doing is marking out the areas that I want the exocet launchers to go. I'm just using a different colour block so that I can distinguish hull from where I want the weapons to go. Same thing with the red square on the bow there. That's just where the 4.5 inches is going to go. And these yellow bits, what I'm doing now is I'm building the third layer up from the hull. This includes what I would assume the wardroom to be, and then the bridge, main masts, radars, funnels, they'll all sit on that section there. I'm just trying to get my little script up whilst I'm doing the whilst the video is running in the background, because I had a load of facts and now I can't. I had like things to say about the Type 21. It's all going hideously wrong. It's been quite a while since I last recorded a video, and I don't know why I didn't have my script open when I started. Nope, no dramas. Okay, right, so... Christ, James, what are you doing? Okay, so, third layer is done. All I'm doing now, so that red square up there, that's where the Seacat launcher is going to go. and the Seacat launcher, as well as the Exocets, as well as the 4.5-inch main gun are all my designs. Save for the missiles inside the Exocet launchers. They were a workshop missile that I modified quite heavily to suit my needs, and in doing so created a rather powerful anti-ship missile. And when we come to do sea trials, I take it up against some of the AI, which I will leave for the 3rd episode, I believe. Okay, so the section that I've just finished raising up there, this is where the bridge and the bridge wings are going to go. So these darker grey bits, this distinguishes where I want the bridge windows to go vaguely. In terms of positioning, this just helps me gauge sizing and spacing when putting in the main masts and the funnels later on, etc. And this will all be changed, obviously, when we come to merge the two pieces together. Now this bit here, this is where the main mast, the forwardmost mast, is going to sit. And this little section here has a really quite a nice design, and this quite angular, quite smooth area is going to be. Now you notice the bridge is quite small, so in terms of building up a bridge before it releases on the workshop, I don't really do that, or at least I don't intend to, because it's just too small. And I've not really worked on vessels of this size, or lack thereof. Now what I'm working on here, I believe, is the section about midships where a lot of the vents are, I'm assuming, for the engines, and I really like that. It kind of looks industrial, but that's what that section is there. Now this platform is slightly raised above the hull area, same as that area there. So I just lifted that up a little bit. This is where I'm assuming communications antennae go, or some form of primitive internet connection of some description, and they sort of just sat on stacks that I sort of build later on. So this area is sort of like an aft island. This is where the aftmost mast is going to sit, the communications sort of antenna area. And I do intend to put ribs on this before release. That's what that little gap there is, sort of midships. That's where that's going to go. Now this little divot that we're doing at the bow, this is where the anchors sit. And you can see I sort of play around with this area quite a bit to see if I can get a decent shape, and I sort of settle with keeping it relatively the same. I believe we leave it sort of like that. I think we do, yeah, so this is where the anchors are going to sit. Now I don't know if I'm actually going to put anchors and anchor chains down just because of size scale, but I believe I might. I do have new XML pieces that I intend to use on this craft. Here you see it just extending the flight deck a little bit, just because I noticed that the bow was longer than the stern area, and it sort of put the proportions out of whack, and I wasn't a massive fan of it. Now here you see me staring at the side of the ship. Now this is to gauge proportions, but also the cogs are starting to turn in my head that I might have made her really quite wide, but it doesn't fully click until. But yeah, there you go. So I think I'm starting to realise slowly, and the cogs are starting to turn in my head. Here I'm just painting around where I want the windows. They will most likely stay this sort of black colour. More so for myself than anything else, because I prefer to sail my ships in third person. Here we go. So yeah, there you go. So you can see it doesn't really show up here until we stick the main mast or the masts on, but you can see the cogs have finally slotted into place. The ship is really quite thick, but as I said, all of that changes when we get to the second and third episode. So now here I'm trialing my different masts. In my head, I have built a Type 21 before. This Type 21 specifically is my is like a remaster of part of a remaster series that I'm doing, where I start reworking all of my old builds that are on the workshop. This being one of them. I believe the one I made before this was called the Avenger class. I believe they're all on the workshop still. I just can't remember. I haven't really touched them in quite a while. Now, these masts are, I just want to say, placeholders. These aren't going to be the finished products because they are the masts from my Type 22 frigate build, and obviously don't mesh well with the much older style of Type 21. The radars as well atop the main mast, we do change those also, and the same thing with the aftermast as well. That whole design gets changed, and I'm really happy with the new design. There's a lot of XML in this build series. A lot of the mast is XML, especially the actual antennae part of the aft mast, but we'll come to that. I think it's in the second or third episode, I can't quite remember. Now here I'm just raising sections up because as I'm looking at the blueprint of a Type 21, I noticed that this area is slightly raised, and in doing so this actually positions the aft mast really quite nicely, but again the design changes anyway. So I think that's about where we slot. So we delete this section of the aft mast just to sort of keep the proportions in check, because the aft mast is sort of comes to just about the same height as the main mast, not over, not under, and here you can see I'm gauging a rough shape for the reworked aft mast there. Okay, so the funnel then, I went through a lot of different rework styles for the funnel. The funnel was arguably the most annoying section. I'm just covering some of the paint that I missed there. I don't even know if we start the funnel. Do we start the funnel now, or is it after? I think we do. I'm just waiting for past James to make his mind up. Yeah, we do. Okay, so now for the funnel, I initially thought about using my, so this is another reworked build. This is my Type 42 build, which I haven't released anything for, and I don't intend to because this was an absolute nightmare to construct. But you can see I just robbed the mast of the robbed the funnel of the Type 42 there, and I realised quite quickly that the whole thing is really hideously proportioned. It's too tall, too wide, and too long. So here I am trying my best to make edits to that, and in the end I believe I just start again, or in the next episode I believe I just start again completely and just build my own. So in terms of the funnel, there's not really much else to say. I'm just trying to find a nicer way of making sort of the slope at the top, and I believe in this case I failed quite miserably. You can see it's just way too long, and it is really, really poorly proportioned, and I don't like it at all. So here I am again trying to rework the design, and again failing miserably, but I digress. Now I'm just trying to gauge colour. The purple colour that will be changed across the board for like a really dark, almost black grey. However, this just helps me distinguish different sections, so I can come back and paint it later on. Now here's when I realised that the size is just awful. She's too wide and then too shallow as well. And here I am just painting some of the sections so I can sort of gauge the colour. I'm coming in with a really nice grey on the decks. Same thing for the aftmost deck there. Now the colours that I chose for this build, they do stay the same. With the black waterline, the red keel, and obviously the Pusser's blue, Pusser's grey colour on the actual hull with the grey deck. Now here I'm designing a really nice, or what I thought was a really nice, really nice behind for the behind underneath the waterline where the shaft and prop is going to go. Shafts and props are going to go, and I'm just trying to get a relatively decent curve, and I was actually quite happy with this design, but the whole thing is turned on its head when we come to basically shave the sides of the ship off, so I can keep the size the same. And here I am just painting the various segments to ensure that the colour doesn't get too bad. I'm just pushing it back here just to sort of make the profile a little longer, or at least look a little longer, so I have room to put the props and rudders in later on. Here I am just doing the rudders now, just trying to get a really nice shape, and I think we stick with the flat back of the rudder there as well. So this is the shaft I'm going to do. You'll notice that the actual pipe bit, they're all XML'd, and the thrust actually comes, the RPS actually comes down where I'm building now. So those pipes, they will hold the gearboxes and the engines. The sort of really long angled pipe means absolutely nothing. It's just for decorations. Now I believe we're putting in weapons now. Yeah, so these are the extra sets I intend to use. They are slightly edited come episode 2. This is the 4.5 inch Mod Zero gun that I use for this build, that I really like the design for. It kind of captures that rounded aesthetic, with the antenna on the top. Now these are the Sea Cats. The Sea Cats were really bad missiles from the Royal Navy. They struggled to lock on, and you had to ensure that your target was constantly on lock manually if you wanted the missiles to hit, which turned out to be more pain than it was worth. Now here I'm just trying to refine the shape a little bit, but we do a lot of the shape refining in the second episode. I don't really know what I'm looking for here, but the weapons are more of a placeholder. Obviously when we come to redesign the hull, excuse me, obviously when we come to redesign the hull, the weapons change positions ever so slightly, not by much, but they do change positions, just to keep the aesthetic nice to look at. Now I'm just sort of looking at the different types of grey, and in the end I do stick with that darker grey for the main hull, the darker grey for the main deck, and then obviously the lighter grey for the bridge roof. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the that concludes the video. I am absolutely losing the plot currently. Just wait for the music to fade out. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please like and subscribe. Obviously, you're not obligated to. Don't if you don't want to. I do apologise that this video was made haphazardly. I can't find the script. I do know where the script is for episode 2 and 3, so please bear with me. It's been a while, and I will bid you farewell from the House of Warfare channel. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta.